Hello everyone, welcome to Lab 3, welcome back. I hope everybody had a nice lunch break and is now ready to join me and Danielle on stage with a talk from protocol to product, taking Matrix into a typical workplace environment. And if you're joined through the stream, feel free to ask questions in the chat room. That should be linked below if you're not there yet, so we can ask them after. Thank you. And now, applause for Danielle.
Thank you. The echo makes it sound like a very full room. Okay, so thank you so much for coming. I'm Danielle Kirkwood. I'm product manager at Element. I work on the admin console, which we'll talk a little bit about today, and I also work on the Element web product as well. So who is Element? We connect people, that's our mission. We build and sell sovereign and secure communications collaboration software. And with that mission of connecting people safely and securely using our Matrix expertise and the power of the open standard that all of us here to know today, know and love, Matrix. That's what it's all about. So the agenda today, we'll talk a little bit about that build buy dilemma you might be facing when looking to deploy the Matrix protocol into your workplace. I'll mention some of the factors to consider, and then we'll talk about how that transforms that protocol into a product, what it means, and how Element build that solution, and then we'll jump into some screenshots and show some more details on the Element Service Suite itself. If that's not quite the agenda you were expecting, now's the time. Whew, okay, that could have been embarrassing. All right, so jumping in, what do we mean by build or buy? Well, we're all building on top of and aware of the open standard of Matrix, that bottom layer. There's then two opportunities to build on top of that, right? And from Element, you'll be very familiar with the clients, that top layer. And if you want to hear all the exciting news about what's happening there, I can definitely recommend Amandine's talk. I don't want to be accused of spoilers, so I'll leave that there, but definitely check it out over the weekend. So today we'll focus on the capabilities and requirements of the backend, so that middle layer. And we'll get into how we just transform it and bring it in together. Many folks here today may have deployed Synapse locally themselves, maybe at large scale, but there are many factors to consider when deploying to your organization and your workplace needs as a whole. So what are the capabilities you require? And there are lots of things to think about. If there are any cost restrictions, any resource restrictions, do you have environmental restrictions? Do you even have access to the internet? Are there any legal requirements, GDPR, data storage, personal information, things like that? And then maintenance of that system. Once it's up and running, how do you ensure that you're getting the latest updates, the newest features, any security updates, and any storage needs? There's a big yes for Element Service Suite at the bottom. So as a product manager, I always need stats. Here's my stats slide. And in some research conducted by Forrester, where over 200 IT leaders were asked what was important to them, these are the results. So 78% of those leaders were concerned with availability and uptime. 69% worry about data sovereignty. These are all words and terms that we know and recognize, because luckily, Matrix inherently covers a lot of them. That's the really good news. But it's not just as easy as that. One cannot simply walk into Matrix. So when you know that Matrix is the right technology for your workplace, having a technology does not make a capability. For a product to be whole, we must take into account the people, the users, and all of those environmental things that we were talking about. So making that technology into a capability that supports the organization and its mission. Considering the user interface, the user interaction. So we can think about the interface, we can think about the UI, but also even if you're just on command line, it's still how your users are interacting with the system. And that's something that may require specialist knowledge or training. So having a product means that maybe you're removing the depths of technical complexity. You're making sure that it's not just a single point of failure and having it accessible by more people in your organization, just productizing it, having it out there. And then integration into the company also needs to be managed. We all know it's not as easy as just giving somebody a tool and expecting them to use it. There has to be integrations, there has to be workflows, it has to fit the processes and really scale and expand with the things that you're trying to achieve in your company. Considerations of data, data management, ensuring that personal information on the end users is protected, but also the product has in place the protection for the company and any data that they're holding. And logistics, what service base do you have? How can it be managed? How do you make sure it's reliable, maintained? And all of those things come together with enterprise-level features and then the flexible deployment as well. That's where we come in. The Element Service Suite. So called because it's more than just a Synapse deployment. It's a full suite of integrated technologies that allow you to control and build upon that layer of the open standard that we were talking about in order to deliver that capability. So a little bit more detail. The admin console UI allows you to configure and manage your communication systems. Again, powerful enterprise-grade and enterprise-specific features such as ID management, audit, and admin, and the secure border gateway for allowing you to control boundaries, things like that. So jumping in deeper still. Firstly, deployment, installation. The Element Service Suite, or ESS, I'll stop saying the long version, so ESS allows for different installation methods. It's built on Kubernetes and runs as an operator. There's a graphical user interface we call the installer that walks you through step-by-step the deployment, or there are also Helm charts available if that's more your style. I will note here as well that a note about Synapse Pro, our Element Synapse implementation that focuses on scaling and those larger deployments. So once installed, once installed, you'll have your admin console. So the UI for your home server, the single pane of glass to view, change, manage server settings. And then from here, the admin console really has two main areas, configure and admin. So first on the configure page. Here you can run through, you can tweak any of those installation choices that you made earlier on. You can enhance your setup with integrations and just change your end user's workplace. We can see here in the screenshot Element Call. There was a demo from Matthew this morning, and I'm sure there's another talk, I think, tomorrow. So that's how you would add this here. There are other integrations as well. I'll call out Group Sync here. So for ID management, other integrations are available. ID management, our group sync feature allows you to integrate with third-party systems and controlling those users, which is where we then transition into the Manage tab. So as I mentioned, there's Configure and the Admin tab. So in the Admin tab, you can see your list of users, deactivate, change passwords, just those administration things. And you can also, from the other areas in this screen, you can manage your federation requirements needed by your organization. You can manage rooms, you can see how much storage, media storage is on there, any reported events, etc. It's super powerful. Secure border gateways, I won't jump into. There was just a presentation this morning. I'm so used to being digital. But the SVG allows you to customize access permissions between home servers. And again, Patrick did a great shout on it this morning. So auditing and moderation. So these powerful integrations allow you to manage the content and events in your rooms, ensuring that any disputes, reported content, any storage requirements, data retention, things like that can be managed and adhered to. It can be handled efficiently and professionally. And then moderation, being able to be an admin in rooms, ensuring the right users have the right power levels to achieve their needs, and making sure that any personnel changes don't result in lost rooms or messages. And I have blasted through my slides, very much ahead of schedule. So that's me for today, but I would love to take any questions if there's anything we want to chat about or jump into in any more detail. Yeah, do we have a microphone? Thank you.
Question with the auditing piece with regard to end-to-end encryption. How does that work where you're auditing rooms that are encrypted?
That's a really great question. I will look to, actually somebody else in the room might be able to answer this for me. Sorry to put you guys on the spot.
You're right, end-to-end encrypted rooms, all the content is invisible to the server, so no purely...
Tom?
Into the microphone. Oh, you're right. There we are. That is louder. Okay, so yeah, it requires an additional component, which is a audit bot, which is a server-side process. It joins the rooms, acting sort of like a user, and having access to those plain text messages, which then talking in front of people is a thing I wasn't expecting to do. But yeah, so it then has there's a range of different options for taking the output from that audit bot and either recording it to a file or recording it to another system, which you can then use for the auditability piece.
Thank you.
I think there's also a web interface, right, in the admin tool for looking at the through that audit bot.
Yeah,
you can look
absolutely.
at the message history as well in there.
Yes. So if I go back to this slide just here on the left, it's kind of small on the screen, but just right here, there's an audit. You click here, and then you have essentially an iframe into any rooms as you go through.
Yeah. And the adrenaline spike of being given a microphone has now receded. So I
Keep
could
the microphone.
speak more coherently on things if you have other questions on it.
I was just going to add that functionality is an option that you can configure in there as well. It's not just all or nothing. Just to
Yeah,
clear.
absolutely. Thank you.
Do we got any more questions? Look at the chat. Yeah, there's one in the chat. I read it out. I'd love to get some details how the groupthink works, asks Lars.
I knew there were any questions on the parts of the product that I am not the product manager for.
So I don't know that much about groupthink. Do we have someone with more groupthink expertise? I mean, fundamentally, it looks at an external record of the of your identities, and then has a process which, as an ongoing exercise, makes sure that the space membership and room power levels represents the data structures which are in your LDAP or something else. So it's configurable for a range of different sources, and then just continuously makes true your system of record and that representation in the rooms. But I think it does spaces and power levels for users in those rooms, and I think it can invite users to rooms as well. So I think it kind of makes sure that the teams that people are in LDAP is then represented properly in the groups and spaces that exist in Matrix. And there is an auto-accept module, which means you can also be in those rooms without having to not take an active step to be in there, which is perhaps something you want in a commercial deployment where you just want people to open up the application and be already in the teams that they're really members of and able to collaborate. Anything else?
Big thumbs up from Will.
Does it do Active Directory?
Yes, it does Active Directory.
I've got a screenshot of it here.
Perfect.
So I can just
Yes, that'll work.
pump this in for a sec. It's really kind of cool. So if you imagine that you're a Windows NT admin in the year 1999 or so, you might be familiar with the Microsoft Management Console. Here's showing Active Directory users and computers. So you can see you've got employees, you've got groups here for engineering and support, and a whole bunch of users here. And literally, as you go and provision people in Active Directory, not only will it turn up in the AD tree and LDAP, but it will go and onboard them into the various spaces. And you have a graphical interface from memory where you can basically go and define the various sets of users and synchronize in real time as you onboard and offboard. So it's basically role-based access control and group privileges and group permissions being applied to both the space hierarchy and the rooms within it, synchronized to Active Directory or LDAP or SCIM, the identity interchange format. Thought you might want to see a photo of Windows 95. Oh, and I could also tell you about cross-domain gateways, but that's a different talk. Sorry.
Well, thanks for jumping in. There's a follow-up question. It is, how does it deal with keeping room membership in sync? For example, when someone leaves the room in Matrix.
Like that. There isn't, I mean, that's literally what it does, that it is going and puppeting the, how does it work? So it acts as a bot, basically kicking users and inviting them into the right place. So it's not using a special MSC or anything for it. It is basically a coordination bot that is going and enforcing the right permissions in the right place. Does that make sense to whichever mystery person in the audience asked? Or
It was a room.
So when I, as a user who has been put into a room automatically by the groupsync, and I just go and leave, then it puts me right back in.
I can't remember off the top of my head if it re-auto joins you. I don't think it does, because that would just be annoying, right? Like if you want to leave a room, you want to leave a room. You don't want to randomly get forced joined back in by the group sync system. I guess it's an option that one could do, but I don't think it does it out of the box.
I think it can boot people. I think it can boot people as well. So if someone that ends up joining a room that and they weren't supposed to be there, they can be automatically kicked.
It's a point of some embarrassment and awkwardness element that because all of our internal room structure predates groupsync, we haven't yet got round to actually deploying it inside Element, which is why there are some slightly questionable assumptions as to the edge cases on it. But we are going to start dogfooding it real soon now.
Okay, I think that was really comprehensive now. I hope the question is answered. Please, if not, then continue to ask in chat. There is a... Well, it's phrased as a question. Maybe it's more of a comment from Andy, who asks or opens a conversation about why would I want end-to-end encryption if I also want to be able to audit messages?
I've got to say, with my customer success hat on, this is a fantastic question, and it comes up over and over again with customers. One of the things is there is a split-brainedness to what people are looking for. And the first thing they're looking for is this sense of security, and end-to-end encryption they see is something which provides that. So that draws people, that opens the door to Matrix, and they come and start looking at what we can provide. But then in a number of different businesses, having a purely end-to-end encrypted system is just, well, in some cases irresponsible, in some cases it's illegal. So if you are a bank and you're giving advice to customers over a text channel, that needs to be auditable. If you are a school and you are responsible for children's interaction with teachers via text or children's interaction with children, you need to be able to audit that to make sure that the environment is safe. So it is a bit of a peculiarity of it that people buy an end-to-end encrypted system or they implement an end-to-end encrypted system and then immediately poke a hole in it with the audit bot. But it is about balancing those guarantees, risks, and I guess also understanding where the holes are in your system. So with the audit bot piece, you do know you know where that code is running, you know how it's accessed, and it is a sort of a managed. I don't want to call it a managed hole, but I guess it is that. It's a managed hole in the otherwise privacy guarantees offered by end-to-end encryption. But it's balancing it in the real-world use cases. Is my answer to the statement question.
Thanks a lot. Okay, I don't really see anything else right now. So I think we finish early this time.
Perfect. Thank you.